And so many people have been forced to take this vaccine, or coerced incentive systems. Yeah. I meet people all the time that say, Brian, I didn't want to take it, but I had to because of my job. Yeah. I work in the NHS. I needed to travel. Talk about the vaccine. Talk about pharma.
Well, if I could just finish two things here, and then I want to come to that because that's very important, Brian. But at Iconic, we produced a documentary recently called A Good Death, ? And I've done a lot of work on this as well. And because they didn't have a virus, a deadly virus, they had to somehow generate what they called the first wave in the spring of 2020 to frighten the life out of people into compliance and docility. So this is all documentable fact from the data. Matt Hancock, the health secretary at the time, ordered enormous amounts of an end-of-life drug called midazolam, which is used by some states in America as part of the execution process. And it was then used, provable from the data, in unprecedented amounts in the care homes on old people and also on disabled people. Because you'll remember that in the spring of 2020, suddenly do not resuscitate orders were being put on old people like confetti, and it turns out on disabled people. So if they needed resuscitation, they didn't get it. They were allowed to die. So what happened was that Hancock said to the hospitals in Britain, you've got to clear the beds because you're going to have this big, massive influx of COVID patients, which never happened. And so get everyone out that you can. And so lots of old people who were in hospital because they were in serious health trouble, not COVID, health trouble of many, many different kinds, they were put out into the care homes, where they were given, they were put on an end-of-life protocol that included midazolam and morphine. And one of the designated, it's in the NHS documents, one of the designated consequences of midazolam, especially if you give too much, is respiratory distress. So they were giving these old people midazolam, and I have seen the documentation from people that are loved ones of people that died. They were given levels of this that was bound to kill them, and whoever gave it to them must have known. So all these old people die, but the respiratory distress is not put down to midazolam, it's put down to COVID-19. And that was the first wave in Britain. You remember, it was almost entirely old people, the first wave of COVID. Because they didn't have a deadly virus, they had to give the illusion of one. So they killed all those old people. And if people think that's fantastic, you do not understand the level of sheer undiluted evil that we're dealing with. And that's one of the big problems for people grasping this, is the scale of evil we're dealing with. Now, at the same time in America, Fauci, a psychopathic mass murderer over decades, he told doctors in America that if someone had COVID in hospital, i.e. they tested positive for the test not testing for it, they had to treat them with a drug called remdesivir. Remdesivir had already been subjected to studies that showed that it created organ failure, and particularly failure of the kidneys. But Fauci still imposed it. So what happened, the effect of remdesivir is that when the kidneys fail, other organs fail, but the kidneys fail, the abdominal cavity starts to fill up with water, and the lungs start to fill up with water, and people die. And this happened in New York, it happened in Michigan, and all these, where the same thing happened. People were taken out of hospital, old people, and put into the care homes.
So that was the second wave, responsible by that drug, and that's what pushed the numbers.
Well, the remdesivir was the first wave in America.
Right, in America. Okay.
And all these old people died, thousands of them, and they call it the first wave. And they did it because they had to give the illusion of a deadly virus, especially in that period when the real psychological focus and targeting of the human psyche was in full swing, the spring of 2020, where they needed to really put that fear into people so that they would become compliant and unquestioning. And so why would you have to do that? Why would you have to use midazolam and remdesivir to do that? Why would you have to fake the test? Why would you have to fake the death certificates? Why would you have to give financial incentives to hospitals to diagnose COVID-19? Because you didn't have a real infectious agent.
Hi, it's Brian Rose from London Real. You probably know that we've just recently been re-platformed on YouTube after 25 months completely in the dark. The truth is, I really need your help. What I really need you to do is click on that subscribe button right now, like this video, and maybe even leave a comment or share the link with friends. We're really fighting against an algorithm that's tried to keep us quiet for so long. And the more subscribers we have, the more people watch our content, the better guests we can bring you, the better content, and we can continue transforming lives. We've been doing this for 14 years now. I want to do this for another 14 years, but I really need your help. So click on that subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment, share this, and we're going to continue to bring you more and more great content. Thank you. Most people will never see this opportunity. Dubai luxury transformation projects have historically delivered 40 to 90% annual returns. That is incredible. These were once reserved only for insiders with access. I spent 15 years on Wall Street and I learned this: the biggest returns always go to the people who get the call first. Now, you finally can. We've just received a brand new project with major upside potential. Allocations move fast. Click the link, apply now, and speak to my team. This is your chance to see what others never will.